there! If you're listening to this spot, you might have never heard of Dice Carnival, but you're gonna want to hear about this. Maybe you'll fall in love with Electroval, our musical steampunk audio adventure where a quirky cast of heroes must exhume a conspiracy after being framed for a famous murder. New upload every Tuesday. Or maybe you would fancy our whimsical Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign that we recorded with our friends at the Homebrew D&D show. We've got plenty of episodes out now, so if you're looking for a compelling story that is guaranteed to intrigue, surprise, and make you laugh, look no further than to search Dice Carnival on your favorite podcasting feed. Hope to see you there. Bye-bye!
Welcome back to Beholder to No One, a D&D podcast. Today I'm here with Megumi and Jordan from the Delagardin. Hello.
Hello.
Hello there. Hello there.
If you don't know, the Delagardin is part of our Pod Squad. And Megumi and I, we were talking about coming on here and discussing language, or English not being your first language and playing D&D, but that's just a minor, one part of the bajillion things we could talk about, because I've been a guest on Delagardin and it's a beautiful world. So I'd like to explore all of the things. So
we're blushing so hard right now.
I am caught up on all of the shows, and if you're not caught up, go watch it /listen because it's a podcast.
/binge listen because it's kind of like that.
Yes.
Short episodes.
Binge listen. If you have a 30-minute lunch break, you got time to listen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's start with I'll go just with the basics. Megumi, let's start with you. What is your experience with tabletop games overall?
Okay, I'm fairly new to TTRPG, and the main system I have used to play the game is D&D. We just started learning to play Savage World lately, but it's been about 3 years. I started playing D&D since I met Jordan. We've been playing together since then.
A true romance when you can play tabletop
Yes,
together.
indeed.
And what about you, Jordan?
I have literally the same amount of experience because when I first started, it was because she agreed to play with me. And she was the first person to ever agree to play with me. And so naturally I had to DM that. And when we first started, she hated it.
Oh no.
She our very first session, she played a cleric and she hated what was going on. She believed there was potential, but she hated it.
Well, I'm glad you realized there was potential. Otherwise, we would have never met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really wanted to like it because I liked role playing. I used to read Naruto comic books out loud when nobody's at home. I just liked doing, voice acting things in Japanese though. And then I used to play this Japanese RPG game. It's called Dragon Quest.
Mm-hmm.
And basically you're a hero and you kill creatures. And when I heard about D&D from Jordan, so you do that game manually, and is it possible?
This is everything I dreamed of.
Yeah, so I wanted to like it, but the language part kind of got me a little discouraged at first.
It was difficult at first.
Yeah.
Well, what did you do? So for those who are in the similar boat, who don't speak English as their primary language and want to play, what are some tips and tricks that you two use to help get over that gap and fix that, or help with that learning curve?
Do you want to start, Megumi, or do you want me to go?
Really level, I think, and communication is the key. What helps with the person, helped me to understand the game was you incorporated because all the terminology was confusing and I couldn't process all of it all at once. So they made a map of Colorado area.
Yeah. I pretty much like our very first game was I was I bought the starter set, and I was just like, try this with, right? And she was just not having it. Megumi just did not understand. And I was reading from, and it, like I said, this was my first DMing experience, so I'm reading from the little descriptive text boxes, and they're using such fanciful words like portcullis, and even for someone who speaks English as their primary language, some of the language that they use in the starter set or any of the 5th edition modules or adventures is pretty fancy language.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. There's times where there's words that are something like, what the hell does that even mean? And I'm like Googling the word.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did is I was just like, okay, I have to like make this language more mainstream, and I think that's what forever got me off of adventure modules. And also, I just don't like reading things. Is that's what made me start homebrewing stuff. So I made a map of like the Colorado area where we live, and used like the names of the cities and towns, and kind of just like made up an excuse for why everything is medieval. And that was the first campaign that we played in, and that's when she first. I don't want to speak for you, but is that when you first started liking D&D?
Yeah, that helped a lot. Yeah, so that was helpful. Also, having visuals help. I know everyone do that too, but drawing of the area while the DM's narrating, that's very helpful.
Like having a sketchbook around and just like making a sketch of a map real quickly, or showing something.
Yeah, like what is coming from which direction,
Right.
and things like that.
Well, what's funny is theater of the mind is used a lot, and I understand why people like it, but I'm also a very visual person, so I need a map usually. I need a generic map, even if it's just literally like I use Excel. I use an Excel file, and I'm showing the players, here's a grid, this is where you're standing, here's where the bad guys are, here's where the walls are, just to give a very basic overview, but that helps me comprehend better what my options are as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since with D&D and a lot of the other tabletop games, it's very specific with orientation, which way you're facing, how far away people are. And I don't want to constantly, like, I think I did one game where I had to ask like 4 or 5 times over the course of like one fight, how far away are they again? No. They moved now. They're not that distance anymore. How far away are they again? And I kept having to ask them, so it was taking me forever to plan my turn because I didn't know. I did not understand whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I especially since COVID has started happening, I've never played with Theater of the Mind before COVID, before we started doing things like online or just between the two of us, and we had limited desk space, so I couldn't roll out the map and everything. We've gotten better with that. But I feel like if you're going to use Theater of the Mind, don't move stuff around that much, you know? The ranged attackers hit at range, the melee attackers hit at melee. But whether or not that makes for good, interesting combat, that's another conversation.
Yeah, a little similar point to that, but I think you used more straightforward expression rather than fancy or too much details, because the longer the sentence gets, it gets harder for me to process and takes longer. So I like that they try to use more simple description of what's going on. That helps.
Yeah, I know from the one time that I did play in your show, I actually thoroughly, like, I loved playing with you guys. That was so much fun. And
we loved playing with you too.
And Adari was fantastic.
Yes.
But I liked that it was very simplistic, and it was like, in the sense of, what does that mean? Like, you were very open with, can you explain that? Can you help me understand that? And that way you could talk together and communicate, so you were both on the same page, and then you would just start back up like nothing happened. And all that part was cut out in the final podcast, but there wasn't that fear of, I'm going to look stupid, which sometimes in games where you're playing with more hardcore players, they might not be as open to, like, oh God, you should know this already kind of thing.
Yeah. It does take some patience, for sure. Because sometimes I'm weak and I'm impatient, and I do get a little frustrated being like, you should know this rule, but I try, like any good relationship, you need to remember forgiveness and patience.
Yeah.
And I think that even extends out to the D&D table as well.
Oh, for sure. There's been games where I've played with, this is not with a language barrier, but I've played with players who, despite playing for years, are still asking the same questions. And it's, to a point, it's like, I'm always willing to help.
Mm-hmm.
There are times where it gets like a little frustrating. It's like, oh my God, how many times do I have to tell you how to do this? And it comes off a little bit, but I try to remember, like, this isn't their life for them. I play all the time.
Mm-hmm,
way too much.
Yes, I'm the one that's read through the entire book, you know? Yeah.
This is not the forefront of their thoughts all the time. And then you add a language barrier to that. That's just going to make it even more challenging for the person learning. And you just have to remember. And the other thing is, this is more in, I've seen it happen with newbie players. I've had more experienced players tell them what they should do.
Yeah.
And I prefer to encourage if it's helpful, like, hey, don't forget to rage. Hey, don't forget you get a second attack. But not say, oh, no, don't do that. You're going to kill us all. Like, I would rather them learn from experience.
Yeah, for sure.
True.
There's been many times where I've felt, you know, in my earlier DM-hood, where I've tried to guide Megumi along, like, no, do this attack, then do this attack, then do this attack, because Megumi loves to play attackers with 14 attacks. It's her favorite thing. That's why Shahali has 4 attacks. She played a barbarian before that too, and it was like that, but with more damage.
Oh, lovely.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely something for any DM to remember, that if you're like, when playing with anyone who doesn't just remember the rules as much as you do, to be patient and let the players experiment and do their thing, and give them gentle reminders.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you feel this way, but if you work with somebody with language barrier, don't feel bad to check on the person, you know, if the person is following, because you might feel bad to bring that up. Maybe not in front of the group, if you feel bad, or if the person looks sensitive. Maybe you know, like I am.
Like the rest of the group is having fun, and Megumi's just at the table looking down.
Maybe
I'm like, we gotta have an aside.
Maybe out of the group you can check on a person. It's okay to bring that up.
Yeah.
It's actually very kind, and I feel nice to be checked like that.
Yeah, to check in on you.
Yeah, of course it might be different from person to person, but
yeah, as long as you're not calling people out in like, are you even paying attention? Like,
yeah. Okay, never do that. This is just general DM. Are you even paying attention? Is the most like, it's roll initiative. That's the equivalent of rolling initiative.
Yeah, I will admit to having done that as a player, but it was purely because everybody was on their phone and having side conversations.
That's so difficult, especially if you're having like a moment for your character, and you're like, guys, pay attention. This is important.
Yeah,
to me,
or the DM has called or explained the situation like 3 times now, and you're still talking about something else, and I'm just like, God, pay freaking attention, please.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to deal with in general, is having like full attention at the table.
Yeah, and I mean, I've done it too. I'm not perfect and a saint about it. There's days where, especially with playing online for me, I have a very difficult time sometimes with, I get a notification. Let me go schedule this real quick. Oh yeah, I need to go message this person about the podcast. And I forget, like,
I feel you so hard.
Exactly. Like, I forget, like, I'm in a game. Pay attention to the story, or you will be confused as fuck. And then
you're gonna be so lost. Yes, I've been there before.
Then,
1 or 2 of the one shots, I've just come in like, yeah, we're doing something.
It's like, what are we doing?
Oh, he was asleep, Cassie.
What What do you mean he was asleep? When did that happen? Like 10 minutes ago. Oh.
I should have had advantage on that push.
Should have been paying attention.
I should have not gone to the bathroom. Or announced that I was.
But yeah, it's just, if you are zoning out, it could be just a bad day. It could be you need help understanding. And if that's the case, and you haven't been reached out to, don't hesitate to ask your DM.
Yes, so hard. 1,000%. At least I don't know about other DMs, but I feel like me and Nikki, we're like, please, if there is just a moment where you can like come into the conversation and be like, I'm sorry, what's going on? Do it, because we want the players to be there. To understand what is going on.
That's good to know. Sometimes it's hard to remember.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Because I feel really bad interrupting people's conversation.
And I'm sure many other people do as well.
Yeah.
But, I feel like any good DM should try to find ways to make their players feel like it's a comfortable thing to do, to interrupt in case they missed something or didn't understand something.
Another good one is to have if you're playing with multiple people, like I know that for Delagardin, it's the two of you. But if you're playing in like a party of 4 or more or whatever, have a designated person that you can reach out to, especially if you're online. Like there have been times in our Friday games where I just DM my friend James who plays with us and I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like I am so lost. Like what is our goal right now? I am confused.
Yeah.
Like it's been 2 weeks since we decided what our goal was, and all my brain is on is I get a new tattoo tomorrow in character, so what's happening?
Nice.
And then he explains it. I'm like, oh, right. That's a thing. Cool. Thanks. I'm on the same page now.
That's a good idea that I honestly never think of because I don't get to be the player a lot.
True.
We're waiting for Megumi to DM. Anime High School Savage Worlds is our next podcast.
I have DM'd once and I killed him right away.
Yeah, she DM'd one session and one session only for me. 5e. I was so excited. I bought a miniature. I painted it.
Oh no.
Level 2 paladin. Dead. Dead by the end of the session.
Yeah, so
that's when you name him Junior and bring them back.
Right? I'll avenge my mother.
It's like Junior's a boy thing. Nope. Doesn't matter. Not in my family. My daughter is the third.
Maybe we'll bring that character back.
Maybe.
Well, another.
Oh wait, no, I did bring that character back for our other home game.
Nice.
As an NPC, and then she died too. In that, she did. She got petrified by whatever that thing is.
No, it's the third.
That thing that. Yeah.
And what you could do, and this is an idea for you, Megumi, is try a game that doesn't have death involved and isn't heavy DMing. Examples could be Honey Heist is a really good one. Very simplistic rule system. You just need D6s. The DM doesn't roll anything. And honestly, I could help you if you wanted, but you could just spend an hour or so creating the general concept, and everything else is based off what the players do and how they roll.
That's good to know.
But there's a lot of
it's like a heist, right? I've never watched a Honey Heist.
It's about bears.
Is it about bears?
Right? I listened to.
Do you have to be a bear?
Episodes.
Okay.
You could be a honey badger.
Okay.
Or a bear.
Fair. What about a bee?
No
bees.
Not for this particular game.
They do honey too. Okay, makes sense.
But the concept is you are a group of bears who do crime, and you are trying to do a heist to go get the honey or get something particular. And it's like a one-page RPG style game that Critical Role did. You have to keep a balance of your criminal and your bear throughout the game. If you get
start there.
If you get all the way to 6 on either side, you either go full criminal and turn against your party, or go full bear and run off into the woods.
I like those
That's
funny.
Delightful.
I like those funny, systems out there. Maybe I should learn those.
Yeah, Lewd Grannies is also
Yep.
one of those sort of systems where you can fail, but you can't die.
Yep.
And it's just kind of like a one-shot sort of thing.
Yep, Lewd Grannies is definitely another option. That's another simplistic one. You just need a d20. It took me about an hour to plan the game ahead of time. And after that, it was just reacting to what the players were doing. I want to do this. Okay, roll a d20 and see if you succeed. And if they succeed, okay, you succeed. Here's what happens. If they fail, here's why you fail. And you just put things in the way of them. And you don't have to, there's no risk of death in that one either.
Well, there is because you're a granny, but
Oh.
Technically, but
I'm just kidding. Maybe cut that joke. That was a bad joke. Sorry.
the risk is that you can be captured and brought back to the retirement home.
Yeah. But this is a fun idea that I've been really trying to push on Megumi since I've been learning Savage Worlds, which really is a really fun system and very flexible, is the anime high school setting idea.
Mhm.
I was not necessarily thinking anime, but sure.
Well,
Go on.
it's inspired by anime tropes.
Okay.
Or like high school anime tropes. But anyway, instead of taking like wounds like in battle, you take embarrassment wounds.
Emotional trauma.
And then if you get incapacitated, you just go home for the day.
That could work. There are games out there that don't necessarily do hit points and stuff like that. What is it? The Zero Engine system, like Tales from the Flood, I think is one of them. They do certain traits that you get. So you get exhaustion. You have one that's injured, but it's just a negative. It's not necessarily a particular damage. Scared, and I think there's another one that I can't remember. It might be embarrassed or something like that. But those are your traits that you have, and that's your damage. If you take all of them, eventually you are tagged out. But I don't know if you die specifically, or if you just go to...
You just disappear off stage.
Yeah, like you go to sleep or you need to sleep or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, please send us that name in chat because I cannot remember that.
I'll have to look it up.
It was like Tales from
the Flood, I think.
Aspirin.
Tales from the Aspirin.
Flawed.
Tales
from Aspirin.
Tales from Aspirin.
Pod Squad shout out.
Random shout out.
We're doing that a lot today. I'm going to try to hit everybody.
I think no. Tales from the Flood? Things from the Flood. Maybe.
Things from the Flood.
Yes.
That sounds creepy. I like that.
It's a particular game system. Oh, it's Tales from the Loop RPG or Things from the Flood. Those are two different ones from the same system.
It's right there. You don't need to write it down.
Okay, cool.
Tales from the Loop. All right.
Look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Tales from 2000 GM table, they're making their own system, but they use this rule set, and it's all D6s. So you roll, hypothetically, you can roll 1 to 7 or 1 to 10 D6s, and you succeed with 6s. Like if you roll a 6 on the D6, then you succeed.
Oh.
So it uses that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I like the concept of it because I've never seen anybody die, but that doesn't mean you can't die. You might be able to die, but I'm not 100% sure. I've never seen anybody die.
Sounds good.
And this is from the Tales of 2000?
Tales from 2000 is the name of the podcast that I know that runs it.
Oh,
it's one of the other podcasts that I'm completely caught up on.
That runs Tales from the Loop?
A similar version to it, yes.
Okay.
I think they're making their own version called Tales from 2000. But
okay.
But that's on GM Table when they stream live on Twitch. But it's just Tales from 2000 on podcast. But anywho's there's dozens and dozens of games out there that a new GM would be perfect for. Another one you guys might like is Mall Kids, because neither of you have to GM. It is a GM-less game.
I was interested in that one.
Yeah? You already knew about it?
We played it on the stream or on the show.
It sounds fun.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't get to catch but the last 20% of your streaming on New Year's Eve.
Well, I'm glad you caught a little bit, but we played it a couple of weeks ago as an actual episode.
Mm-hmm.
but it's a GM-less game, and each each scene is created by a different person, and you as a player decide what you want to get from it. So in the game specifically that we played, it was based in 1998, and we were working at KB Toys in the mall, and Furbies were coming to life.
Oh my goodness.
Which is slightly terrifying. And in one scene, I remember specifically saying, I'm like, it'd be really weird and it'd be really hilarious if I looked over and I see more than one Furby, and the one person is like, do you want to? And I'm like, kind of. And they're like, roll for it. And suddenly, like, dozens of Furbies appear. And I'm like, oh no, what have I done?
And they're all just, like, blinking real slowly, saying, feed me. Did you have one of those?
Oh god,
I had one of those.
They were terrifying.
I wanted, but I didn't.
Mine literally was up in the middle of the night, just spouting random demonic stuff, probably.
It was huge even in Japan.
Wow, did you have one?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I
sorry.
wanted, but
I'm so sorry.
no, yeah.
Well, you saved yourself some nightmare fuel.
Yeah, there was a couple of them that would, like, change and, like, mess up their sleep cycle, so that at night they would be like, feed me.
Wow.
Come play with me. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, thank you. The ones that we did, there was one that was just like, you will die. Just like, oh god.
Really?
This was in the game, but yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, not.
There was rumors that
That'd
they
be a
happened in real
lawsuit.
life.
Yeah.
wow, that's messed up.
Yes. Like now I'm just like, why did I ever have a Furby? They're terrifying. Like,
Well, we all wanted them when we were kids, but we didn't know this was all going to happen.
Oh, they looked so cool. It talks and it's furry.
Yeah, it was like bigger Tamagotchi.
pretty much, yeah. Oh god.
And you could touch
Yeah.
its tongue to feed
I
it.
forgot about Tamagotchis for a second.
Like, that was such a weird mechanic of the Furby. You opened its beak and touched its tongue to feed it, like it's
Oh,
eating your
Yum,
finger
yum,
bacteria or something.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yum.
Yeah, it would say that it would say yum just like that.
Huh.
All right, can we move past the nightmare?
Yes. Speaking of Tamagotchis, though, you can buy them still, and you can buy old school ones.
Yeah, you can buy them at Target.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right next to the magic cards.
I know there are generations of them.
Yeah.
They have like original generation ones. They're like obviously remakes, but you can get like the original ones with the original creatures and everything. I'm just like, I have to keep myself alive. I don't want to keep a fake thing alive too.
I used to like those, but I was not patient enough, so I just skipped the time
Oh my goodness.
until the day it evolved.
Evolved? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's how I played.
Yeah, I just played Animal Crossing, which is kind of the same concept, but a little better.
I mean, kind of.
I'm tempted to get it on Switch now that we got one,
I
but I feel like I missed out.
No, I mean, if you still want to play it, there's still plenty of people who are playing it. I got kind of bored, but that's me with every video game ever. I tend to go back to the same like 3 or 4 games.
I tend to always just go back to TTRPGs.
Also that.
Yeah.
But no, like with Animal Crossing, it's always the same. It's always the same for me. I get really into it for 60 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as that 60th hour hits, I'm just like, man, I do not feel like pulling another fucking weed. And then I'll feel that way for 6 months, and I'll be like, oh, how is my village doing? And there's nothing but weeds.
And everybody moved out, and cockroaches took over.
And you're just like, I feel bad. Now I don't want to play at all.
Let me just start my island over. This is
Exactly. And then I continue that cycle for the rest of my life, but with newer editions of the game.
Speaking of TTRPGs,
Right, that's what we were talking about.
There is a rumor that, because you probably said it earlier and I just don't remember, that you're switching to a different system from 5th edition.
Yes,
that is a very true rumor. We made the character sheet for it last night.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep Shahaley as close to her 5th edition counterpart as possible, but we'll also be changing things for mechanical reasons, of course. But the goal is to do it with narrative purpose.
True. Yeah, that makes sense. Megumi, are you excited about the change, or are you nervous, or a little bit of A and B?
Well, to be honest, I feel a little nervous. Just because it's the system I have to get used to again. We actually practice ran yesterday, and we are going to practice run again.
Yeah, that's why I announced today that we need another week. Actually,
Yeah,
That's fair.
but I'm looking forward to it. I really like the edges and hindrances, and they are very interesting. What is it?
concepts,
Mechanics. Yeah. So
Yeah,
once I get used to it, I should be good.
yeah.
Yes.
I played Savage Worlds like 3 or 4 times now, and I honestly really enjoy the system. I love when you ace.
Oh, who doesn't?
Feels nice.
For those who don't know what that means, it means if you're rolling a d8 and you hit an 8, you ace and you roll again and you add the numbers together. So you can literally roll 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8 and just keep adding it and have like a bajillion and just be like, I think I win the game.
And yes, and for like every like 4 past the number that you're supposed to get, you get an extra special thing on top of that, except for certain circumstances. And I just love that really dynamic. It's a really dynamic game where I feel like if you're a GM who's worth their salt, there's like it should be easy to make it so that no combat feels samey or repetitive.
Yeah, I know that in the game for 10 Tabletop Tales, when you were DMing it, that was your first time DMing
It was
Savage Worlds. And you did a really good job, and
oh, thank you.
I think everybody had a lot of fun, and I got to do some things that I never did in a character because I played a magic character for the first magic for the first time. I did a weird science character prior. It was really interesting how the concepts work, and it seemed pretty simplistic enough that it's not as overwhelming as 5th edition can be, but it's a little overwhelming. Just a little.
It
Is it as a DM?
No, as a player.
I haven't DM'd it yet.
It certainly can be a bit overwhelming to learn. I think there definitely is a barrier to the game in terms of like there are a lot of rules. You know, there's a lot of circumstances that to think about. But, you know, I think once you start learning those, the game is very simplistic and a lot less wordy than than 5th edition, which is the other game that we're really used to playing. Because with 5th edition, like, if I needed to know a spell, well, that was very hard to remember. Each spell does, like, a different amount of damage. So, like, Firebolt does a different amount of damage than Ice Knife, and Poison Spray does a different amount of damage than both of them, and they both have these small little quirks that are different about each of them. And with Savage Worlds, you have a spell called Bolt, which pretty much assumes that it's like any sort of bolt. It could be like Firebolt or Ice Bolt or whatever.
Yeah, and you can choose what kind of, like, literally it says you choose exactly what type of bolt, so you can make it anything.
Yes, and you also have the ability to spend more power points, which are kind of like the magic resource or mana points of this game, to give it additional effects if you want to as well. So there's a lot of versatility and a lot less wordiness once you do know the rules.
Is Shahali Megumi going to be still like roguey?
She is more balanced this time. I can't exactly remember how she was, but I feel like she's hard to hit in this one too.
Okay.
Was she hard to hit last time? She's evasive.
She had all right AC, I think, in 5th edition.
So nimble.
But she is nimble. I would describe her in this edition. She will be nimble. She is rather hard to hit, but does not have a lot of toughness.
Yeah, not yet.
But she does damage.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she attacks a lot, like Megumi likes to do. That's how we build them.
Yeah.
And I like that some of the flaws that you can take in their hindrances. I mean, those could go with.
God, absolutely.
Yep.
We love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it is just like if you need inspiration for role playing, look down on your character sheet and look at your hindrances, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'll play up to play like that this scene. Now, obviously, it doesn't work with every hindrance, and sometimes it can get tiring, but like it can really help out if you want to like role play a good scene. Play into that weakness that's right there on your character sheet.
Yes.
True.
Give us a sneak peek of one hindrance, Megumi, if you remember one.
What did we have?
Ruthless. Wait, did you take Ruthless?
No, but I actually remember. I think shamed.
Oh yes,
That one makes sense if you haven't
Yeah.
watched season 1. That would definitely make sense. That's good though. So one of the things that at first Shahaley it took a little bit for her for me to like her, because she was like, I loved your role playing, like you did fantastic. But the Shahaley, the character at first, was a little bit.
We were not trying to make her likable at all in the beginning. I did not understand that either. I'm like, Megumi, could you make your character a little more likable? And she's like, I'm going to play her how I want.
Right. But
essentially,
as soon as I saw that little bit of character growth, I fell in love, because I'm like, okay, there's hope. there's a little bit of hope in there.
Yeah.
For me, that's what makes a character is growth, and whether that's very, very little bits or just like they care about something other than just selfishness. Like I don't like super selfish characters, and to be like Shahaley wasn't being selfish to a point. She was caring about her mother specifically. It was her mom, right?
Yes.
So she wasn't technically being selfish, but it kind of came off that way. So once there started to be growth and like, oh crap, am I doing something wrong? Like, did I mess up? Then I'm like, I stand Shahaley. This is my new favorite.
And you know, in that particular part of the 4th episode, spoilers. I'm just gonna say spoilers for the first season of the Delagardin here. Like at the very end of the 4th episode, something happens. And when we were playing that session, I was shocked that she did it when she makes the deal with Iona.
Oh, okay.
That.
I was shocked that Megumi even role played that, and I was just like, great stuff, because that's just sometimes your players can give you like when they role play someone so well, someone so flawed. It just gives you something to roll off for an entire adventure.
Exactly. And now, like, Shahaley has to live with that choice and had to do something about it or live with the consequences and the guilt of it, which either way, which I won't spoil which one you chose, but either way will make a good story. So kudos for Megumi for like making those choices that probably not everybody else would have picked. They would have been like, oh no, I would never turn somebody else in. But sometimes there's going to be characters that are going to be like, I don't know him from the next guy.
Oh.
Yeah, I've known him for a couple weeks and I want to find my mom. That's Shahaley.
Yeah.
But now we're dealing with the consequences of that in the 2nd season. And I'll spoil 2 hindrances, but I won't spoil the 3rd. You know, driven for sure, because Shahaley has a mission. Shamed because Shahaley did something bad. And I won't spoil the last one.
That's fair.
You'll just have to listen to our 3rd season.
So this Wednesday, everybody, please go check that out. I'll put the link below to their podcast.
Yeah, and we'll try to make it. I also want to make it. So this is just a personal plan. Thanks for letting me ramble and listening to me. I'm trying to make it so I want to make it so that like you can even jump into this 3rd season and you won't know everything that's going on, but we'll kind of like tell you as we're going along.
Starting from the beginning is optional.
Yes. That's how we hope to make the whole show.
Yeah, and if you want to follow Shahaley's full journey, you listen to season 1 and then season 3 continues. Season 2 has a different character completely.
Yes.
So you should listen to both, but just so you know.
You can start from the middle.
Start from the middle.
Yeah.
So Megumi, what is your favorite thing about tabletop?
I think, what is my favorite thing? I think role-playing, because, I don't know, I just like to think about why people why I feel that way and why I act certain ways. So this is kind of like me putting my knowledge into a character.
What would you say that knowledge is of?
Knowledge?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like self-awareness?
Emotions? Something like that, yeah.
Self-awareness and emotions?
Yeah, and actions.
Mm.
Something like that. We particularly try to incorporate characters with flaws and some weaknesses, and we want to portray how the character, faces the consequences or challenges because of how they are, or things like that. I feel like that's our secret mission of the Delagardin. So that's what I enjoy.
What about you, Jordan?
I love giving those flaws consequences. That is my favorite thing. If you have watched either season of our show, you'll know that actions have consequences.
Yeah.
But other than that, I do love. For me, it's like sometimes it's just like emotion, and I felt this more playing one-on-one than I ever have in a group, and maybe it's because my game partner and I are very, very close. But sometimes when we're playing and we're role playing and we're getting really into it, one of us or both of us might end up crying because of how like emotional and how in the shoes of our character we try to get. Mm-hmm. And that's the highest high, really, for TTRPGs for me, is when we get into a moment where like we can feel it in our soul, and it's like art and beauty at the same time, or something like that. That's the only way I can describe it, is like when you get an emotion, when you're moved by something that you and someone else has made. It's amazing.
Yeah, those are fantastic moments when you kind of sit in awe and you're just like, did we just do that? And it's sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but just like, did we really just do that? Like my favorite games, my favorite by far, and I may never podcast these games because sometimes they have darker stories, and that's not always safe for podcasts, but they're the games where
an SFP.
Yes, an SFP. They're games where I leave the table questioning myself and questioning my character's decisions, whether good or bad. And I become like emotionally connected to those characters and want the very best for them, whether it's like a serious game or a fun-loving game and a goofy game. I become deeply involved in my characters and their well-beings. And a perfect example for my Friday game right now, it's a very silly game, super silly, but we have fun. We laugh a lot. But when the thought of ending the game came up, in like, oh, the module is ending, we're debating on just moving on to a new story. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? No.
I haven't finished up here.
This isn't done. My character has shit to do. And they're like, yeah, but we can pass over that. We can just move on. I'm like, no. Like, my character would not leave the city. There's no reason for her to leave the city because she has these things that she has to accomplish. There's legitimately, like, no reason. Like, it would not make sense.
You know, and that kind of reminds me of another thing, is sometimes your character doesn't want to go with the rest of the group. You know? And
in those situations, like, I literally, like, I told them, I'm like, if you leave the city, like, I'm just telling you straight on, being honest, if you guys leave the city as a party, my character would not join you. And she is stubborn enough that she would stay on her own and try to do this by herself, which will ultimately get her killed.
But that's good roleplay right there.
Yeah, you get invested in that character. You want to be loyal and true to that character.
Exactly. Thankfully, like, we came to an agreement that we would conclude we would wrap up the loose ends because each of us had something that we wanted to accomplish. My character, her ultimate goal right now is to destroy a crime family that has her family at risk so her family can come back to town. They're in like secret hiding right now to survive.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Sounds cool.
And it's all her fault. So she's like, I'm not leaving till they're safe. I'm not leaving till I know that they can come home and just exist. Another player, his whole thing is finding his friend. Another person is finding her mother. So it's like we have goals we want to accomplish. And until those are accomplished, which I don't think any of them require leaving the city, we're not going to leave. And I'm hesitant because I told the DM that I don't know if I'll continue with once this story is over, I don't know if I'm going to continue with playing when we move to a new story. But I think it's mostly because of my schedule. But I love the game.
Yeah.
I'm just so freaking busy.
Yeah. We know you are. I need to join a home game like that.
That sounds good game.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Mm.
I mean, I might be able to get you some seats, but I don't know.
You might be able to what? I'm sorry,
I might be able to get you some seats, but I don't know.
Oh, don't worry about us. I'm all like, I work like 1 to 9 p.m. my time.
Oh yeah, that
like 5 nights out of the
that would
week,
not work
and
then.
it kills
Yeah.
my D&D schedule.
Yeah, that's definitely
It makes me so sad.
That's definitely a predicament since usually I don't get off, or I play at 7 normally. My time, which
Yeah,
is
but I'm-
which is
Florida
5 for you.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that like things move around in my job, and like hopefully soon I'll have a position where I can work a normal time and I can play games every couple of nights.
I would like to request a schedule change. You're seriously killing the vibe of me playing games.
Yes, well, I've done that too. I've reserved like every Wednesday night off, and then like in this most recent schedule, they've been like, actually, no.
It's nice they allow you to do that.
Yeah, it's nice that they allow me to do that, but they like me closing. I hate it. But I also like getting up whenever I want in the morning too.
That's fair.
But is it worth my Is it worth my RPGs? No.
Which one must you sacrifice?
I don't know.
Sleeping in or playing games?
Both are really appealing.
Playing games is more appealing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're right. You're right. That's why I'm hoping I'm getting this position soon.
Yeah, everybody cross your fingers.
But I would love to just be in more games again. I haven't played. We haven't played in our like group game since a month or so before the plague, and the Misfits.
Yeah, we played with Misfits once.
But yeah, we played with them once
Reunion.
in summer,
Yeah.
like before it started getting worse again.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, maybe it's not going to be so bad. Oh, I got that again.
Yeah.
All right, let's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, the games that we played in person thankfully switched to online. We did play 2 games previously, and now we're down to the 1, which works for me because I added like a shit ton of other games. But I do miss playing in person. I really do.
It's such a feeling. It's to get snacks. All the snacks. I miss the snacking.
The snacks.
I haven't snacked that good
Snacking
all year.
Well, I mean, what you could do hypothetically is have everybody get on a computer and play, and everybody have your own snacks. Then you don't have to share.
Yeah, but like when I DM, everybody makes the snacks, and I DM. That's the trade.
You have to make snacks.
And you don't.
Now I have to DM like in a space where I'm like, I'm not super comfortable DMing online. I could do it more. I could try it more, but like when the plague started, I was just like, I don't want to learn how to DM online.
And
there is Roll20 and stuff like that, but I don't want to learn how to use
there's
that.
a little weird timing thing that happens when you play online. I don't prefer.
Yeah, it also, speaking of playing online and not having English as your first language, does that present any difficulty for you?
I don't know. I just feel it's harder to interrupt for me when I'm not following online. I don't know. When I'm in person, I can gesture it.
Yeah, you can just raise your hand and be like, hey. And you can like interrupt when we're online too.
You can also play with video cameras, and then it makes it a little bit better, but it's still not perfect. But
that's true.
Yeah,
it's a little better. That's what we were doing on Tuesdays. I literally got off of a game right before this, And haven't recently, but we used to like have our cams on so that we could see each other, so we wouldn't accidentally talk over each other.
Right. There are
Yeah.
games that you
The GM that we played with, well, I was GMing our group for a long time until the plague hit, and then I was just like, well, I don't really feel like learning how to do Roll20. And then at that time, I also did not know how to do Theater of Mind at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been learning that skill.
I think the biggest thing about switching to online is you need to add a little bit of that theater to mind. If you aren't physically seeing each other, and this isn't even if you're just podcasting, but just playing in general. If you have webcams, it makes it a little bit easier, but it's still a little delayed. I've noticed that if I add descriptors to my words, it helps. So, like, for example, she looks at you like you're crazy, and she's just like gives you this dirty stare. What the hell are you talking about? Like, just adding that little bit of description to explain how you look right now or what you're doing, or like she wraps her arms around you and just like shakes you or like something like that. It helps a lot more. When in character, you can get from context clues what their emotions are like, or in person, I mean, not in character.
Yeah, what you're describing is like describing body language is so important to role play. I feel like, because we often only talk with our dialogue. I notice in a lot of games, a lot of players and GMs only talk with dialogue, but it can be so important. It's like so different when Shahaley says, say a Shahaley line.
Okay.
No pressure.
It's so different when Shahaley just says, okay. Or if Shahaley like looks down, like drags one of her feet back and says, okay.
Yeah.
You know, such a different context.
It is important, especially since with Shahaley, I don't talk a lot, and there are more than words that she,
uses?
Project?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And like in podcasting specifically, like that's 1,000 times necessary. And I remember this came up in role playing your character out when I was talking to From Afar podcast, I believe it was. We were talking about how it's important also to do more than just saying, I stabbed them. Like,
yes.
How do you stab them? What do you do? What are you using? How are you reacting? And sometimes I love to add flourishes that don't necessarily make sense. And I'm going to bring up my favorite little monk girl again. Technically, yes, I'm using unarmed strike. I go and swing a bunch of punches at their face, and technically that's what I'm doing. But I like to say, well, I run up and flip on them and then do a kick to their side as I try to wrap my thighs around their neck and twist, like that type of thing. I'm not technically mechanically doing that.
Yeah, you're not just punching them.
But
narratively.
How boring would it be? Like, I go up and go, pow, 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 pow. Okay, I'm done. Pow, 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 pow.
Yeah. And however, I do want to add on something to that. Some players are nervous or might not just be naturally as descriptive or being good at describing their own actions. So they might just say, I'm going to do an unarmed strike. And maybe it falls to the GM to say, all right, so you like move to the side and you jab them real quick in their thorax because it's a bug or something like that, you know? So like, the player and the GM can work together on it, but you know, every table is different.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But it's fun. It's fun to have that. It's fun to have that description.
Yeah, that flavor.
That narrative description of what's happening mechanically.
If the player doesn't want to do it or they don't feel comfortable doing it, then 1,000% talk to your DM and your DM can do it for you. I, as the DM, will always encourage it to give them a shot. And then try to add on to it so that they slowly get more comfortable with it a little bit.
It's that yes and.
Exactly. Or the no but. No, that's not how that works. You can't fly, but you fall gracefully over the cliff. But it is nice to see slowly people, even if it's slow, but just like people learning how to do that too as players. And if they never get there, that's fine. That's not their thing. That's not their cup of tea. They're here to stab bad guys and move on. I also liked role-playing even when it comes to my favorite part of games personally is when you role-play with the NPCs. and you learn more about those NPCs and build those friendships and relationships so that you actually are like excited to meet them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm thinking about it myself. I'm like, I do not build interesting enough NPCs sometimes, I feel like.
I mean, look at it this way. So for Shahaley, what's the name of the... I won't...
Codenad. The boy?
The other person that travels with Shahaley that we don't need to mention. Codenad.
Okay. So a Codenad, like, he has a personality. He and Shahaley have a relationship that you see change throughout the story, and that builds something on that story. I won't spoil what it is, but it builds something. Like, there's going to be little characters, like now Shahaley has the relationship with Idari. Idari might never be...
So Idari needs to make a season 3 appearance?
I mean, I'm not going to say no to that. But I'm saying, like, if Shahaley never meets Idari again, there was a moment. There was that growth. And if you ever saw Idari again, whether it's played by me or NPC'd by Jordan, I don't care either way. You'll have that connection, and you'll be able to have Shahaley go, oh shit, I need to save her if she's in trouble. Like, I need to do something. I remember talking to her that one time, and like that builds something.
Yeah, she really helped out.
It has to be played by you.
Yeah, I could not play Idari.
She talks too much.
Too chatty.
That episode's still my favorite.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you don't know how many times this girl has listened to that episode. She just walks in with a phone, like, out loud, the Delagardin.
I love it.
Megumi is the biggest Delagardin fan.
That's good.
But yeah, so that's another thing that's great about Savage Worlds that I literally mentioned earlier, but I'm going to harp on it again because I love it so much, is that the hindrances are part of the mechanics, and it's literally on your character sheet. And like, I'm going to be developing Codenad a lot more this season. He's not going to be missing for half of it unless Shahaley decides to do something again.
Hope not.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't go there exactly, because I'm like, I got a different goal this season.
Yeah, and I'd love to see Shahaley and Codenad's friendship build, and see how they interact with each other.
Especially now that they have this very particular background.
If you're listening to this and you still haven't gone and listened to that episode, please do.
Oh my goodness.
Finish this episode, then go listen.
Then just go binge listen to the first season, and then you'll be like, oh my god, I thought I wouldn't like it at first, but I actually really like it, and the music is really good too.
Music is very good.
And then listen to the second season, and you'll be like, what happened? Oh, okay, they're going back. That's kind of how I feel about the second season.
I will still say that I absolutely love the second season music.
Yeah,
especially the clarinet part, because it brings me back to like, oh, I miss playing clarinet. Every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, I miss playing clarinet.
That was a fun project for me.
We did a bit more fun music in the second season, but I'm ready to get back into I don't know, I love the haunting sounds of the first season's music. That's just my area of expertise.
That's fair. So is there anything else either of you would like to add for new time players, specifically for Megumi, for new time players that necessarily don't speak English as their primary language?
I think I have already said that earlier, but it's a really nice opportunity for them, people with language barrier, to join this. But it can be, it helps you connect to people, and you get to act as core characters, even though you might not be confident with your language skills, but they could use little help from people around them. So yeah, I don't know. What is my message? Just have fun, get to know them, and have fun.
And what about you, Jordan?
My advice, particularly for non-English first language speakers, it would be, it might be a little difficult, and you might need to find the right DM, and don't give up, because it's so it can be so eye-opening to have this avenue to express yourself in ways that you might never have felt otherwise.
Yep.
Very good advice.
Yeah, and for the DMs, mind if I put in a little more? If you're a DM who's GMing for someone who, and not even just necessarily having English as not their native language, but anybody who just has if you're DMing for anybody who just is having a harder time grasping the concepts, just remember to be patient, be compassionate, because ultimately the goal of almost any GM, I believe, should be to tell a good story and have fun with your friends and enjoy this experience with people together. And so be patient and be compassionate. And that's what I got.
100%. Okay, well, where can everybody find you both?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm a pro at this. You can find us at the Delagardin or at DELAGARDIN on Twitter. You'll find our link tree in our bio, and you can also listen to us anywhere where you listen to podcasts, except for like Pandora, because they never got back to me, at the Delagardin RPG podcast, spelled the same way as I spelled earlier.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining me. I appreciate it. I'm glad you were able to make it, Jordan.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Megumi, thank you for being willing to jump in, and I absolutely loved hanging out with you both.
It was a pleasure.
It was nice. Very nice.
So everybody, please go check out the details in the description down below and go give them both some love on Twitter and on all the podcasting places if you haven't listened to them before. And you can find us on Twitter at Beholder to No One, as well as on Facebook at Beholder to No One, though we are way less active there. If you do listen to our show, please go give us some love on iTunes with some reviews. We have 15 5-star reviews, and I would love to have a couple more.
Wow.
Whoa.
Because at some point we hit iTunes graphs. I don't know. We were in the charts for like a day, and I would love to see that again because I'm very confused.
I saw that day. I was there.
That's exciting.
So please go back to that. Go subscribe to iTunes or something. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, we subscribe.
Yeah.
We listen to the show.
And if you also enjoy the show, you can find details on our link tree, but there is a Patreon and there is merch store, which Megumi has bought one of our shirts. You got it before me.
I love it. Yep.
It's very comfortable.
I like it. So
jealous.
cute.
It's lost in the mail right now.
Oh, sad.
But yeah, that's everything. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.